They don't go away after last week?
I had this image of back there, and his cars all lined up, back in slots where you can go. Fine, good luck, and everyone goes.
It's still music, you know, all the people that have to do it. Well, I'll be honest, yeah, I'm working remote. I went in today, that's why I'm just like this. If I don't have to do that, I'm not gonna.
Probably be more efficient for you, so it's on the travel.
Yeah.
Seize the table, there's space.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, like, if you wanted to come in.
Yeah, you're good. And it is 5:30, so I'll kick us off. Call us to order. This is the June 22nd meeting for the Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force. I will start with a roll call. So Alan Baglia, Robert Downs, Ed Ciccarello is absent for medical reasons, but he wishes us all well. Haritha Nagabandi, I think, is going to be coming soon, and I'm Derek Kalin, and I'm here. First, and Saima. Saima is joining us remotely. And Saima, I'll have you with a broader view of all of us here. There we go. Okay. So first order of business is appointments and resignations. We have one resignation from Sandy Kelly, who wrote a letter that I will pull up now. So Sandy has been with the task force since before we were officially a task force. She says, I've been on the Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force since its inception. I am proud of the fact that Rocky Hill has reached bronze certification in that time. As you probably know, I'm involved in various town committees as well as non-volunteer activities. I'm becoming overloaded and I need to lighten my schedule, and I think we can all sympathize with that. Consequently, I need to be stepping down from Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force effectively immediately. You have an enthusiastic, committed group, and I know you'll be announcing silver certification in the not too distant future. So I think I speak for us all when we say thank you so much to Sandy for everything that she's done. And it's not like we're not going to be seeing her all over town anyway in her various other roles. So. With that, next order of business is open floor to public comments. Are there any members of the public here who wish to make a comment?
I just want to bring up our event next Tuesday night, Trash Talk with Carrie Wood. It's at 7 p.m. in the Senior/Community Center. And not only will Carrie speak to what the state has accomplished in this last session as it relates to trash and recycling, but also Sam King will be there from Blue Earth to talk about a proposal that he's made to residents to participate in a program of curbside food scrap collection with them. And I don't know if anyone from town will be there. I know we talked about it a little bit to represent another option possibly, but I did speak to the town council on Tuesday night at the meeting and invited all the town councilors to attend. And I also, wanted to make a shout out to any public residents who are listening and would be interested in coming.
Looking forward to that event. I hope to attend. And you've invited us to talk about composting initiative and a possible way to get people access to discounted Blue Earth composting services. And that's going to be referenced in our subcommittee reports under 9.4. So hopefully we have something to contribute.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about recycling too, and I know that's something the town wants to revisit too, because there's not a lot of non-compliance with our recycle collection, which costs the town more money, because when something's contaminated in the bin, we pay a price for that. So
Yes. It hasn't been something that heretofore this year we've dived into. We've been more on the 9.4 for organic material composting, but 9.3 is increasing recycling. and I think I'd be personally very interested in.
Or improving it.
Yeah, making it happen at all.
Right.
No. It's something I think we'd be really interested in pursuing activities around. So maybe this is the kickoff point.
Can I just to add to that,
Please.
on the topic that I listened to the Tuesday meeting also online, and Joe Lantini presented. Really notable in my view was that they're going to extend transfer station to Wednesday nights. Well, Wednesday nights is probably loosely, I should say 12 to 5. I think he said, but don't hold that. But
Or maybe later, yeah.
I do know that when it's whatever it is open now, and I missed that window, I feel like, you know, I've got a lot to do, a lot to bring, a lot to recycle down there. And it's also a great place for upcycling. I went down there and found a workbench. The attendant helped me load it into the car. And transfer station is really something we should be somehow more involved, not involved with, but somehow more advocating for.
Yeah.
Joe sounds like he's
Certainly we
got a
can
lot on
be
his
raising
plate.
awareness for it, if not other things.
I know we talked about
If
bringing in
there's a point.
TVs and how we can make money, like the town can make money on
Electronic
items.
recycling and
Yeah.
electronic.
I don't really understand it, but.
Well, I didn't
thought
want
that was
to, you know, just kind of to tack on to your comment is that Joe, from my perspective, seems like he is capable and a good staff
Yeah.
member that we could probably get to know a little bit more and find out what kind of things he needs.
From all of
Public
us.
education,
Yeah.
maybe some on-hand times at the transfer station, if that relates to a CT point, which
Yeah.
I could, I'll look that up.
Absolutely. No. 9.3 is increasing recyclable materials, and that includes everything from like town education, like here's what goes in your bin, to different programs to incentivize, you know, from pay as you throw to other mechanisms.
And
So-
2 weeks ago, off of Goffbrook Lane was a hazmat collection, which these things kind of just come really under the radar. And I know the mayor's report might mention it. You might see it in a report somewhere publicly, a statement in it. I brought paint cans down there, and it's like, now I know that. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the hazmat drop-off, transfer drop-off, and amplifying those things.
Yeah.
So other neighbors know about it.
I'm making a note. We should start thinking about 9.3. So was that all, Mary Beth? Yes. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that event. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So that's public comment. Next is actions taken or minutes for approval. I got to be honest. I have no idea how the mechanism of approving minutes works.
Let me see if this works, and if anyone feels like, I'm going to motion to approve the minutes from the May 2023 meeting. That
Can I-
they've been distributed, and I need someone to second that.
Yeah.
I see.
Get a second. All in favor? Saima, I'm looking.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Unanimous.
That could be,
Unanimous consent. Great. All right. Well, thank you for that. Moving on to number 6. So, report from the task force chair. I have a graphic that I would like to share with folks, and I know it's a tiny screen, so maybe we can all gather around the table. And Saima, I will share my screen so you can see.
You know what?
It's on the
I'll
phone,
wonder.
not the-
All right. So there are other people who have access to this as well, who are on the task force.
I'll look
Great.
at the words.
Oh, okay.
And I can make this record available, and ideally this should go onto our website when that goes live. But what I'm looking at here is a visualization of where we stand in terms of points under the Sustainable CT framework. And when I say we, I mean the town of Rocky Hill. So back in August 2022, we submitted a package, and we received actually 300 points. I had been thinking it was 275, but it was 300 points under the Sustainable CT framework, which puts us firmly into bronze. To get to silver, we need 500 points, and it's not quite as simple as like, well, you have 300 and then you add an extra 200. Apparently, some actions only give you points for certain years and then they go away, so you don't continue to get points for something that happened 5 years ago. Some things that are 5 years in the past are ineligible for current credit, right? So this is to incentivize continuing action so that you are constantly improving towards sustainability. That being said, so there are a number of actions that we've already completed that, if reviewed and accepted, would get us points. And then there are some prospective actions that are coming down the pipe that could get us points. So the already completed stuff, we do a lot of education in this group. So we've got a lot of composting education sessions that Alan and Anita and Haritha and Saima, many members of the task force and broader community have been involved in. We do a lot of work related to pollination, and this is in the book club. We do a lot of this. So every meeting, there's usually a review of a book that we have read, some best practices that were outlined in that book. We're visiting people's houses to identify what they look like in practice. We're distributing seeds and seedlings in order to raise this culture of awareness on pollinating. And ideally, we're also taking this knowledge and spreading it out to the rest of the town. So those get us points as well. The Rocky Hill High School is doing a composting program in the fall, and that is like a completed action. So, or at least the Board of Education has decreed it to be so. So I think that is eligible under points for this time around. And a huge point getter was on June 5th, the town council passed a complete streets resolution. So those are all things that we think already are in the bag and can get us points. On the docket, there are things like the walk bike Rocky Hill bike ride that you guys are planning on Saturday. I looked into it, Alan.
Fantastic.
This could be a point getter as an educational bike program. The DEEP proposal, as we know, is still in the works, but if that gets finalized, that pilot program will be valid. There's establishing a affordable housing committee, which was brought up at the last town council meeting. That was raised by town planner Kim Ritchie, and it certainly fits within a sustainable CT, as explicitly identified within the sustainable CT framework. And then there's this idea of a town statement on equity, which is currently in the hands of the Commission on Innovation and Inclusion. They are putting together a package of recommendations for the town council, which will, in all likelihood, include a statement on equity as a proposal. And if that happens, then the town council will instruct the commission, and we can support them there. So, I had a meeting today with a representative from Sustainable CT, who is a fellow that is hired for the summer to help towns achieve their submission goals. So there are two windows for submitting to get certification. There's the spring, and then there's the summer. The summer deadline is August 15th. So, looking at this chart, if we do indeed have 300 points, we need a total of 200 points in order to make it to the August submission deadline. And, that would mean everything that we have planned is going to get points, and then we need an additional 80. And as we know, these things are complicated. So we need more activities if the goal is in fact to make it at the August deadline, and if not, we should explicitly say, okay, we plan to make it for the spring. From where I sit, there are 3 points buckets that we can go for. One is just activities that we as a task force can do, and that's what we've been doing, right? Educational events, events that get people engaged in the various issues in the sustainable CT framework, right? This is the easy stuff. The next action is like town implements new policy. Think complete streets, but applied to the other frameworks like municipal electricity policy, or sort of the bigger foundational issues. And then there's ongoing town projects that we're already in the works, but could fit in the sustainable CT framework. And this is something that Jason and I were discussing briefly before folks walked in. Jason, could you talk a little bit about your hopes for getting points from existing town activities?
Yeah, I'm actually, as liaison, I was hoping this would be kind of my first chance to really contribute to the group. when this task force was created, the hope was by having someone like me on this task force, I'd be able to easily work with the other departments. I work in the engineering department, division of community development and planning, but certainly we have lots of other divisions around town, and each of them has their own sets of goals and responsibilities for work each year, and things that they'd like to achieve and things that they do achieve. And this last bucket that you're talking about, these ongoing projects, may be untapped resources for points that we may not even realize we can qualify for, and we just haven't uncovered yet. We did have a consultant do some of the preparation work to help out with achieving the bronze level certification, so I have a feeling that a lot of this has already been turned up, but there's always that chance that perhaps something didn't come out in a conversation that could have been brought up that might have qualified. This might be the chance to dig a little bit deeper and see what else we can find. So that's what my goal is for the next couple of weeks, is to try to sit down with each department head and discuss it, and try to figure out what things might qualify that they haven't considered. And hopefully we can get some good input from everyone, and maybe learn a little bit more about what might be in the preparation stage that we haven't heard about yet. So there might be some interesting things coming down the pipe.
Yeah. So, it's a stretch, frankly, I think, for us to make the August deadline. But if there are projects happening at the town level that we are currently unaware of, and if there are activities that we're planning over the next month or so that could help us achieve that goal, I think it's worth trying. But obviously, we're doing this because we want the town to get certification. We're also doing this because we think there's value in it. So in some sense, like, as long as we have a vision for achieving silver, the pace at which it happens, we should try as much as we can, I guess is what I'm saying, but not beat ourselves up if we can't make the August deadline.
I just to add to that, I think there's been a massive learning curve for us.
Okay, Simon, then Alan.
Yes. So I wanted to bring up, I think that we spoke once before, the events that we did under the equity and action. The one educational event we did, the Islam 101, and then the Taste of Ramadan.
Yes.
And the third one that we were talking about, we still haven't gotten a chance to meet about that and how to move forward with that. The Eid holiday in schools.
Right.
So
Thank you for reminding me of that. Did a Holi or Holy event happen?
No, it did not.
It did not. Okay.
No. But we are planning for Diwali event.
Okay. All right. Thank you for reminding me. One of the nice things about our support fellows is that they can look at the things that we've done and help us figure out if and how they fit within the sustainable CT framework. So it is my action item to bring the work that's already been done to her. So those are an additional set of points.
yes, I think you told me that you're gonna check with them that what do they need from us, and that's when I was supposed to gather some pictures, but then I need to know that what they need, and then
So
I can go.
from what I hear, in general for events, they like participant lists, they like pictures, and they like any paper documentation. So like if there's an agenda, if there's a list of outputs or decisions, not that the Taste of Ramadan was a working group meeting, but you know what I mean. Basically documentation that the event happened and that it covered certain issues. That's what they're looking for. So really, if you have any artifacts left over from these events, send them our way. I'm sure I can find them.
I have pictures, and I can also contact Gina, because I had exchanged emails with her and had meetings with her to facilitate these events, both of those.
Mm-hmm. You also sent me a flyer, I recall.
Yes.
So like pictures of the day of and other materials would be handy.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Would that sort of represent all of these types of community events? That's our framework, like a flyer, photos, maybe a 100-word summary, 50-word summary of what took place, attendees.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
I just have 2 points. One, a question. What happened to 4.1 with the Girl Scout, Eagle Scout project for mapping cultural assets? So that's one question. And then I'm also just looking at 8, and I just feel like we've either done or could easily do a lot of these. Like hold a sustainability event, that seems pretty, we've been doing that. Provide effective community communications, train municipal representatives, the community match funds under there. Engage in sustainable CT mentorship with other municipalities. I know the book club is now including Weathersfield, and we have like the Walk Bike Weathersfield group, so like that's something to consider. And engage with youth on community sustainability, which I know we're talking about how the high school group falls under the purview of like composting, but I feel like this would capture it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great point. To answer your question around 4.1, I don't know about the mapping of cultural assets. Is there
It was brought
documentation?
up by Ed, right? In
Last meeting.
last meeting.
Last
Was
week.
the conduit for them, and I think, I don't know, I wouldn't want to speak for him as to where it sits, but I think that we would have to kind of step in and be like, what can you contribute? Because I'm interested in that. Whether or not I have the hours in the day is another matter. But I do really think Rocky Hill is lacking that.
Yeah.
Around Academy Hall, those little templates, those little stanchions, that's a really good framework. That's a really good start. You could find those in other places. Whether or not those are liable for graffiti and a QR is better is a conversation, but anything would work, right?
So an action item that I might request of this group is to take a look again at the Sustainable CT framework and like send in ideas for what we could do, what you would be, and particularly highlighting what you'd be interested in doing, or if there's any information that's currently missed in our work.
And that was going to be my comment, was
Yeah.
that the learning curve here, I think we should get ourselves a break.
Yeah.
And August would be ambitious, feasible, but the learning curve, we're just looking at 8 for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
Really unpacking these. I myself personally, I don't want to be fully engaged in only 6.1 and so forth. I'd like to see other areas, including organic waste. But then I'm only 1, so how do I decide?
Yep.
So the learning curve is my only point here.
Totally get it. And we've talked about this. I think we should all highlight the things that we're passionate about and want to do, because that's how we do this in the long haul, right?
I have one. The 8.5 says engage in sustainable city mentorship with other municipalities. So is it within the Rocky Hill town, or does other districts also qualify, like Middletown, neighboring towns also qualify for that?
I think if we had some sort of shared projects with the other communities,
Okay.
then yes. I don't know of any off the top of my head that will qualify at this point, but I can, through my research, see if there's something that I'm not aware of yet. As I talk to the different department heads, I might be able to learn a little bit more. Within my own division, I don't think we have anything going on that would qualify.
So if we are like from Rocky Hill, right? If we are actually making some progress on composting in the Middletown in certain particular areas, like kind of reaching out to them and making sure that there is some composting being done. I'm talking specifically at Temple. So I reached out to them and I made sure that I collected the compost bins from there and left it in the temple so we can start composting certain organic thing. So I don't know if that qualifies for it, but something
awesome.
like an outreach, right?
Yeah,
From Rocky Hill, we are outreaching to the neighboring towns and
Let's you and I talk about this, and gather up the materials and send it over to our fellow who can help us to interpret it. But that's awesome.
And then I just wonder, just while we're on it, there are a number of things, like encouraging an equitable and just food system, like that might fall under the statement of equity. If we choose to include the halal lunches or other things like that, and then, developing a sustainable local economy. And then there's another one, 10.5, support equitable food access and local farmers. Like maybe the farmers markets that are already operational would fall under that too. So,
Mm.
and that's a 15, at least 15.
And I think that's a rolling credit thing as well. So that's something that we can apply every submission cycle, like as long as the farmers markets are going on.
And what if we were to advocate to increase frequency of farmers markets? Right now, I think it's once a month. Maybe we could have 2 in September. I mean, not to say that we can't, because I think Parks is pretty well tight ship. They've got their fall booked. But going forward for upcoming years, if that increases it, that might fall. Throwing darts in the dark here.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. No, and there are other things that are on our radar that we're just waiting for, like updates on town action. Like, for example, the community garden in the
New
perhaps Straska, perhaps Rocky Hill Community Garden Farm TBD. You know, when and if that happens, not only is that a point getter in and of itself, but it sustains other activities around education.
And I'm going to say a real quick one, just because we said 10.5. I'm just saying 10.6 is plan and prepare for extreme heat, so that might be pretty relevant now.
Yes. Oh, and there's a TNC, the Nature Conservancy. There's an event that they have offered for us to do, and I've yet to say that we're organized enough for it, but now might be the time.
Promote cool roofs.
Yeah, and yeah, so there are a number of things. So again, I think we could all spend a lot of time looking at this list and brainstorm ideas. My request to you all is to take a look over the next week or two, re-examine and see, are there activities that you know of that we've already done that we should look at, or two that you are freshly into pursuing as a part of this task force. And with that, were there any other comments? I'll move on to the next section. Okay, subcommittee reports. Action 1.3, equity statement. Saima, you and I and Robert actually are all three on this subcommittee. I was thinking about just sharing what I saw on the Commission on Inclusion and Innovation meeting last. Okay, so I have spoken with Tom Kosker, who is the chair of the CII, and asked about this idea of an equity statement. In general, equity statements were a part, or a request for an equity statement was a part of the town's collective feedback when CII, I think in April or May, hosted this community listening session. What the commission is doing right now is assembling feedback from their public listening sessions and from the survey that's been going on for the past year, summarizing it so to give highlight items of what issues town residents think are important, and then presenting that to the town council in its entirety with a summary and with a list of recommendations of so what, right? And of that, the equity statement is part of it. And while I personally would love to move quickly on the equity statement, I think that there's some real justification for moving in this particular way, because an equity statement, in order for it to be meaningful, it needs to be actually driven by what the town says it wants. Like, here are the issues that have been identified by town members, and these are the things that we're going to do in order to address them. These are the things that we would like to happen to address them. So, when CII presents to the town council, that will be part of the package. And my request, I guess at the end of this for the new business will be can I make a report to the town council identifying that we think that the equity statement is important and is a point getter under sustainable CT framework. So that's the update as far as I see it. Saima, Robert, is there anything you all want to add?
When is that? Is there a meeting or are you about the event that already happened? The public hearing, public speaking, problem here.
I think that the commission has either finished their recommendation statement, they had been drafting it when I saw the meeting, or they're in the process of finishing it. So if they have finished it, it's going to be at the next town council. If they haven't finished it, they have to meet again, finalize, and then it's at the following town council. So within a month or so, I think is the thinking. I think our connection with Saima is poor. So Saima, if you can hear me, please feel free to interrupt. Otherwise, Robert, anything to add, or anybody else here? Yeah. Okay. Action 6.1, implement complete streets. Alan, you've been leading our group on this.
Yeah, a couple of things. First is that the town passed this policy, I guess is the best way of putting it. It's not an ordinance. What's a policy?
It's a resolution.
A resolution. They for administrative delays, took some time to get it passed. I think it was presented several times for a variety of reasons. It was not passed until this past 2 town council meetings ago. With that, I've had some thoughts about a would-be Complete Streets committee. And myself and Derek and Ed met to discuss the viability of a Complete Streets committee. And part of my thinking is that we already have something of a framework with the Walk Bike Rocky Hill that is an awareness and advocacy group. And do we need a committee? What do we gain by adding a committee to this? Can I just kind of discuss things as they come up? But that's really not the point of this report. What was mentioned earlier was the idea of getting points for, excuse me a second, for
6.5, I think.
Got it, yeah. 6.5, which promote public transit and other mobility strategies, but then a little more granular is the, had it.
I think point 2 is educational. And by the way, I'm really just sad that I can say, oh yeah, 6.5.2.
Well,
like this is about the nerdiest thing I've ever
About
done.
to get to that point, I'm completely fumbling through this, but I had it, and I was thinking what I'm going to do is just sort of stall a second, because I can go back to your email, which flagged it. But by and large, without giving you the precise 6 point whatever it might be, it's qualification to have Rocky Hill recognized as a bike-friendly community.
Right. That is part of the
Within
6
the 6 point framework, which one exactly?
Yeah.
I'll put a pin in that. There's an application to do that, which is, the application is due by August.
Is that the League of American Bicyclists?
I could be.
That sounds right.
I have it pulled up.
You have it pulled up? What number? I could just refer you.
Oh, it's under 6.1, and it is 6.1 points. I just had it. American 6.1.5. Achieve at least bronze level status in the League of American Bicyclists Bicycle Friendly Community designation.
Okay, so just sort of a similar framework. They have a bronze level and then a silver level status, and then we'd be achieving bronze. The town of Glastonbury has achieved bronze, and it also, a lot of this is very synergized. In other words, what Haritha said about other municipalities, perhaps there's something that could be awarded if we have some kind of coordination with Glastonbury. How did you get your bronze certification?
Yeah.
And we'll follow those steps.
And I wonder if there's
Kind of
points that we can
where I
get for the Putnam Bridge. I mean, isn't that like bike lane infrastructure connecting to?
Yeah, it's gonna connect 2 towns that are not connected presently via a bike ped path, and it'll indirectly connect Rocky Hill
yeah,
because it'll allow
direct.
more of a.
So definitely great for Weathersfield.
It's huge for Weathersfield. And Weathersfield, if you just, we don't want to get too far off topic here, and I don't want to ad lib much, but I just want to say, if you go to Weathersfield, go grab an ice cream on Main Street, look around and you'll just see that there's a vibrancy there that they've achieved.
Yeah.
Whether it's through advocacy, whether they have a different street structure, whether they just sort of had their town council and town manager supportive of this in a much more vocal way, I don't know. But there's something happening 4 miles from here that's not happening here. There's something happening in Glastonbury across the river 2 miles from here that's not happening here. And I'm trying to find out where the gaps are.
So, in summary, so you're interested and might pursue the League of American Bicyclists.
Point 5
Yeah.
is a promote public transit and other mobility strategies. And I'm trying to find out how one then ties this to this League of.
We'll find it.
What's the action, complementary action? So I'm trying to, again, the learning curve here is pretty severe for me. I'm trying to find out where it is at this bike-friendly city 6.5. I believe that was actually 6.1.5.
Yes, at least achieve at least bronze level status in the League of American Bicyclists. That would be a 10-point program.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be my pursuit, and that application is
Right.
due by August, so I'll report back in July at this meeting as to whether or not I made progress doing so. Hopefully I have. And then in August, I can say that I have applied, or
Right.
here's what I need to apply.
And I'm sure that you can coordinate with town staff as needed.
Yeah, and quickly, just because we're talking about 6.1, implement complete streets, I'm curious about something like Saturday. So I am a bike advocate before anything, and I'm also interested in finding out what are the safe routes in Rocky Hill. And to that end, I've planned a public ride on Saturday, starts at 8 a.m. at Sweet Bee Coffee Cafe. I'm expecting 4 people, it might be 25.
There were 7 people who signed up on Facebook.
Well, it's true, but then Facebook is not real life, and then Saturday comes, and
Yeah.
who knows what got in the way, whether it's a soccer game or an unscheduled illness. But these things are pretty hard to gauge, only because I don't have a great, strong social network here in town, and I'm relying on folks that I do think are going to be there. So like I said, 5 or 50, it's a win. But I don't know how, well, then getting back to what you said about a flyer and a documentation and the attendees and a photo at the end, would that then be packaged together as one of these actions?
I believe so, yeah.
Well,
So
I'm sure to make that happen, whether it is or not.
it's a bicycle education program, and bicycle education can be everything from like the mechanics of I'm sitting on a bicycle, how do I stay up, to how to get around safely, to like where are the bicycle routes in town. I think, I raised this, I was with our not our mentor figure, our fellow, and I was like, a lot of this is just community building around like having people be aware that this is an option. And I think it absolutely files under 6.5.
And to that end, in September of 2022, myself and 5 others, including Derek, met at Ed's house. We had never met in real life before, not only a pandemic issue, but neighbors that had never got acquainted prior to this. And that, I think, was sort of a foundation for how we could do more things by meeting and talking. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be peddling every time you're doing advocacy. You can
Right.
also be just discussing in principle. That meeting led to our taking a little early evening walk around the Church Street campus to talk about these mid-crosswalk signs. The mid-crosswalk signs, there used to be one between the library and the post office, there are now 5. So I think it's just like a little thing that becomes normalized, and now you're walking on crosswalks with a signage that at least flagging cars to be mindful of pedestrians. And are they also on all town municipal school streets and adjacents too? So we can build on that and find out if that's something that
Absolutely.
the town is serious about adding more of them. I know there's cost in
And for the event,
quickly on that point,
okay, go ahead.
public attendee commented on having one on France Street, but it's not in the roadbed, it's off to the side. And so I suggested you contact Public Works and say, shouldn't this be in the middle? And there's another one. Now we can start doing like a tally of how many of these crosswalk signs are in the road bed, and those are not small items.
So I'll go to Robert, and then let's close this off because we have the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, just real quick, it does go under 6.5. 6.5, the event on Saturday. 6.5.2 is conduct a bicycle education program that teaches participants how to safely operate their bicycles, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, just
Yep.
wanted to put that up.
Yep.
There could be a youth at this ride. There could be children under 16 should be accompanied by adults, which is my guiding principle for this kind of ride and shared roads. And if we do have a child under 16, I think that's incredibly notable, especially if this kid goes 16 miles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Action 9.4, reduce and compost organic waste. Haritha, maybe you and I can tag team on this. So
there were a couple of events that happened after we met last time, right? One was the educational event by SIMA at the senior center for the seniors on what is composting, and that actually helped to bring in some folks from there who attended the session to the next event that we had, where Alan, Anita, and I were part of, on turning the compost bin 1 to 2. So it was so nice to see that connection, that it was back to back, so they were able to see the theoretical part of what Saima said, and then they were able to come here and see the practical part, right, on how we do things. So it was nice to see people there.
There were people that mentioned that,
Yeah.
that were here because of that.
Because of that. So that was a success, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
and can I just say, I love
Yes,
the
I
idea.
don't know if it was. I don't know if it was planned like that or
But
was
it
just
happened,
a coincidence that it was next day. I don't know.
There were people that also attended the Rocky Hill Pride event.
Yeah.
And then I think there was maybe some murmur about it happening after.
Sure.
And so
So
anytime
they-
we
yeah.
can buttress up against things, I think it's a win. And I don't want to take the air out of this conversation, just to say that the Heirloom Market Bike Walk meeting was buttressed up against Great Meadows Conservation meeting.
That's smart.
why we had attendees. And time is valuable. If you could make them close to each other, they stay on topic. And
Exactly. Maybe for
Shared
future,
values.
for us
Yeah.
to think of having something like back to back, so people can actually connect and we'll get more people who can really get more awareness, right?
I love that. Just collaborating with other groups in town. We're not working in isolation, and the fact that like actions can build on each other, right? Like, what if in the future, as we're doing compost education events, we could also hand out compost bins, right? And just say, well, now you've learned, go try it at home.
Yes,
Like,
that would be great. And that is something that I want to tap into. Middletown have that program where they don't have like where they had a pilot program. I don't need to tap into that, but they do actually give the compost bins for the people who are interested. They can just take it to the transfer station and drop it there. If even we can get to that mode in our town until the grant goes successful, I think people will be interested
Yeah.
to do it. There's something for us to think about for future. But I'm seeing a positive on the Middletown that they are doing it. Those were the two events. And the third one that I wanted to give an update on, the community match fund. As you suspected, it was on the Juneteenth, but I saw a note to reschedule. I couldn't find a slot this week, so I'm planning to schedule something for next week. Hopefully we'll get to meet, what's his name? Joseph Dickerson on understanding the eligibility and how do we confirm with the outline if they come.
so, how this relates to Mary Beth, your event. Initially, the hope was that we were going to launch the crowdfunding campaign, this platform that Sustainable CT would be providing at the event. Because of this challenge of like connecting with Sustainable CT and actually getting the platform set up, I think it absolutely makes sense for Sam to promote the normal route for people to get involved in composting. He'll list the website, go and sign up if you want to, and that is a fantastic call to action. If we get to 50, then that's great. Like, then composting is turned on for Rocky Hill and everybody wins. What I would like to do is to make a call to action at the event saying, if you are interested in hearing about a program that would come up for reduced, the reduced subscription, give us your email address and we'll contact you once that goes live. Kind of pre-post it. And if it turns out that you don't get 50 names signed up that night, then it's no loss to Sam, right, to get that additional group. Like, he gets the same amount of money either way.
Right.
And I should say Blue Earth Composting. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, but also, I don't think that'll be the only time that we would want to advertise that. And that reminds me, because I sent an email to the Rocky Hill Television. I don't know if anybody watches that, but they do have times when they're not showing a program, but if you turn to the channel, there's just a rotating ad screen. So it would just bring up different...
like a video ad screen or like
Yeah.
a JPEG or...
You're getting technical now.
Sorry. SVG files, what do we got
But
here?
I sent the thing that Carrie marked up her announcement on Facebook. And not everybody's on Facebook, but maybe
Right.
some people watch Channel 14 or occasionally look at it to see what's scrolling, and what's going on in town. That could be an advertisement for anything.
That could be for anything, right? That's just
Yeah.
another channel for
Yeah, you
distribution.
go to Channel 14 or Channel 16. 14, I think, is Rocky Hill only, and then 16 would be, you would see other towns as well, like Newington, Huddersfield.
Yeah.
I used to be heavily involved in TV in Wethersfield, but I haven't yet. I don't even know who's in charge of the one in Rocky Hill, but.
No, it's a great
But
idea.
there is an email that you can send to them.
Did you get a response when you did?
I have not gotten a response. I just did it yesterday or the day before.
That's fair.
So I don't know. I hope I get a response. Or I gave them the material that they could just post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's three things that come out of this then. Like, one, we'll continue to pursue meeting with Joseph Dickerson and getting sustainable CT. Two, we'll make a call to action saying, if you want to find out about this discounted program, you can also sign up with us right here, and I'll have like a Google form or something like that. And then three, that's an entirely new way of communicating with Rocky Hill audiences. And it's a certain subset. Like, not everybody watches
Right.
Rocky Hill TV, but it's still a way to target just Rocky Hill people.
And I believe even if you don't have cable and you have, you should still be able to get local television stations, including that. It's like some people who, I even suggest, instead of just Facebook, is there Instagram? I know a lot of young people don't do Facebook, but they do Instagram.
Yes.
Or, I know the Rare Reminder is where Carrie was going to put a press release in about this event on Tuesday, but
That was in today's.
did you see it?
Yep.
I haven't
It's
seen
in
it.
today. I mean, you know how the Rare Reminder has this page and that page?
Yeah.
The rest is ads and so forth. It was on there's usually something about it goings on at a state level.
Yeah, but I think the kind of stuff that you guys are doing would interest a lot of young people, just finding where to advertise it.
Trust me, that's a good.
And once you
good
connect
challenge.
them once, like I think they revisit it, like you want to go on a bike ride, we're advertising on Channel 14, like just keep checking, see when we're going.
I think what I'm hearing is that we should develop like a distribution list. Like, okay, you've got an activity that you want to promote, email, social media, Channel 14, Rare Reminder, like go down, boom, 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 boom. It'd be nice if I could find a way to like automate all that, so you just send
I
it
think you
once.
send it up to, are we allowed to have like an official newsletter that we could get an email list and start doing?
Yeah,
that?
I think so. Like, part of our purview is education for the town. Like, that is within our bylaws. So to that end, like, we should use email.
Because what you put on like Facebook could even go on bulletin boards. Like we used to advertise like at the
Right.
town hall
I
and
love
in the
a bulletin
schools.
board.
Yeah, if it's something like that, like even a bike ride, if you did it for elementary school
Yeah.
kids, they could ride in their school parking lot, and have little orange cones and you go around,
Also get other .orgs involved, like Walk Connecticut. They might have a framework for that. And I didn't get into this. I wanted to talk about the, save it for next meeting, the pedestrian audits.
Yes.
Another thing that we could get credit for is
6.5.4.
simply following AARP guideline. That's the retired person's guideline, and you take any members of the public that want to go for this pedestrian audit, and everyone has a clipboard, and you walk to an intersection, and everyone independently says, I don't feel safe here, where do I cross? I don't know, speed, too speedy, too fast, no, must stop. And then you're able to bring this feedback together and then have a report. So pedestrian audit.
It's a great idea.
And so just tab that for, for another meeting to flesh out. I'm going to focus here on this bike-friendly application thing, but maybe this pedestrian audit could be an early fall.
That's a great community building exercise too, as we've talked about.
We'd advertise, meet at the town in front of the fire department. We're going to walk down Riverview, I don't know, anywhere.
Okay, so next item, discussion of old business. Website update. Jason, the perennial question.
Yes,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've made no action on that item, and I need to.
Is this something that I can help with? Like if I contacted so-and-so and CC'd you?
I was going to talk to IT about it tomorrow morning, actually. I'd be happy to
Update?
send an email out and let you guys know
Okay.
that I indeed had that conversation, that something's in the works. Yeah, because I'd like to get that started, as soon as possible. It might be something I can definitely get some motion on tomorrow.
Wonderful.
So that'd be good.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd be happy to report that to you guys.
Very good. Discussion of new business. So another question for you, Jason. I know when we spoke one-on-one a couple of weeks ago, you had mentioned that the town manager had some feedback for our bylaws. Is there anything that we need to be aware of right now?
I still have to submit it to him and
Okay.
let him review, so he doesn't have the feedback to give yet.
I see.
He hasn't seen them, but I can transmit those to him tomorrow as well.
Okay. And one of the questions that I had raised is, like, if we want to request that the town council appoint additional members, there's no explicit rule for that in our bylaws, but I assume that like the town council can appoint whomever they wish, as long as the numbers are right.
I assume.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'll ask him that specifically and see what the procedure would be. He may want us to go back and revise our bylaws
Right.
to help reflect that. That's a possibility.
Right.
I will pose that question to him tomorrow as well. I got a busy morning tomorrow.
Yes. Wonderful. Oh, and okay, so Sima had to go, which is
So,
fine.
Would
Okay.
the town take over the appointment, or would you like write a, like, do we, because maybe you could write a letter of rec or something? I'm just
Yes.
thinking, yeah.
So the mechanism, as I understand it, if this works the way I think it does, is that we could write a letter requesting the town council appoint such and such a figure. And of course, they can choose whomever they want to appoint, even without our recommendation, but through that mechanism.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And to that end, okay, so I had hoped to. So we have been talking as a group about our representation within the task force. Oh, Simon's back. Hey, I'm glad I didn't close the window.
Yes, it's just that sometimes there's a bad connection and yeah.
I appreciate you sticking with us, Sima.
Yeah.
So we had talked a little bit about getting youth representation on this task force. Ideally a high schooler, and especially because the high school has been so proactive in doing composting work, right? And the environmental club will be instrumental in the composting program happening in the fall. The environmental club is going to be teaching other members of the high school how to process their food and what goes in what bucket. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I do not have a formal candidate to propose right now because I've been in conversations with people gauging interest. But what I recommend is that in our next meeting, if you know of a candidate, bring it forward. Bring him or her or them forward, and we can discuss and put some names together for a recommendation to the town council.
No, I just have a question about that. So, and I'm not opposed to adding someone from Rockville High School onto the task force, but I'm just thinking because high schoolers tend to, at the end of high school, move on and do whatever. Would we want that to be someone who's appointed by the town and then, their level of commitment shifts / they have to resign when they go to school / whatever?
Right.
Or would we want it to be like an honorary position where like whoever is the president, vice president, whatever of that club at any given time is just always welcome to come contribute, things like that.
I see the value in the second approach because it seems the most flexible. My one caveat is that like if somebody is going to be asked to like participate in events, show up monthly, I think they should have a vote.
Sure.
Right? And that goes for like any group that we would ask to come in, right? So maybe there's some sort of hybrid approach where we like, ask the town council to have like a seat dedicated for a young person and then like be prepared to swap them out or something like that.
If the bylaws don't change and the task force membership is 2 years, then it sort of makes sense to appoint a junior.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, people can resign at any time, as we know.
Yeah. And if that junior resigned at the end of his or her junior year, someone could fill out that year, and that could be a senior. So it could be flexible, or it could be a senior that graduates but is still very much tied to the town.
Sure.
So maybe what I could do, I don't know if this needs to be reflected in the bylaws or what. Like,
Well, there was a. To what degree was our online discussion relevant here? Because I know that we talked about how, it was Ed that said, sorry, we can't do that because the bylaws say we can only have 7 members. And then it was said, well, no, you can change the bylaws. So that means one of us would have to propose changing the bylaws. I forget, was it in a month in advance of a meeting? And then at the meeting, you could propose it. If there's a second, then you could motion to propose the change. This
Right.
is a little bit muddier than I clearly understand.
right. So I think
So,
I think what we could do, Jason, were you about to say something?
No.
Okay. What I can do is I can propose a change to the bylaws, especially since they have not been formally ratified by the town council. I can draft language, which I can bring to this group and say like, hey, can we add this if necessary? I think the critical point is that the town can appoint members. Regardless of whether it's filling a vacancy.
Yeah, and the bylaws currently state that it's a 7-member group, and I think that there could be an argument made to make it an 8-person group.
Right. Although at the moment we are a 6-person group.
Right? That's right.
Because of Sandy's departure. So like that particular challenge is not addressed, but I think you're right, like flexibility is necessary.
I would just, if I can add, if you get somebody in the high school, you can send a letter to either the principal or to the guidance counselors. I don't pick one, I guess, or the head guidance counselor. Maybe it starts at the principal, but to offer that to be, given to the environmental club, it would. They kind of have to get that chain of command, I think, too, to be involved. But also, it would give them the hours that they spend doing it are volunteer hours.
Yes.
For their,
Yep.
and it would go on their resume.
Sure.
There's a lot of, advantages, and for kids who are already interested in the subject,
Yeah.
that would be how.
I mean, this is a chance for the environmental club to get the rest of the town engaged in their activities because they're already organizing cleanups, as we know, and things of that nature. And, not that this is the reason that we're doing it, but it also fits within the Sustainable CT framework, engaging with youth, right?
Because they can be a conduit to advertising in a school newspaper or
Exactly.
a school
Or just word of
newsletter
mouth.
or to the parents of all the members.
So I have an idea in mind for a candidate, somebody who's participated in several sessions already as a high school and as a representative of the environmental club. If you all have other ideas, I'd ask that you bring them to propose that for us to discuss in our next meeting.
And I'll just share, in terms of just like expanding our total task force membership section, this is from Ed. Section 3, alternate members. The town council may appoint an alternate member who may serve when a regular member is unable to attend a meeting. Each alternate member shall serve a 2-year term and is eligible to succeed himself or herself as an alternate. So,
It's a non-voting member, though.
It's a non-voting
oh,
member.
is it not? Well, they'd be voting when the voting member is not present?
That's a really good point. In this particular case, when we have a medical absence, hypothetically, that alternate would attend this meeting
Right, yeah.
and vote.
And the benefit of that is that you have enough people so that if somebody is absent, you can maintain a quorum, and that you have a deep bench. And I think there is value in that. I still think that if we're asking people to be representatives of their particular interest group, they should be a full member.
Sure.
You know?
But that might work too then if we wanted to do like we have whoever, I mean, I don't know who your candidate is, but like say they're the president of the environmental club, they can be the voting member, and then the VP could always be an alternate,
Yeah.
so that.
There's an
That
idea.
could be baked
Yeah.
into their
Yeah.
high school's environmental club's framework. You know, indefinitely.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is great. And I apologize. I know that we are at time. Could I ask for a grace period of 5 or 10 minutes? Okay. All right. So we finished B. C, social media policy. So this is something that Jason and I have been discussing, and the town at large. We've been given feedback that it would be helpful for town residents to understand the dividing line between us as task force members and us as residents of Rocky Hill. And to make it clear in our various online presences, social media, email, etc., when we are speaking on behalf of the task force and when we are speaking as individuals who have opinions about things. I think I am particularly guilty of blurring this line because I am constantly posting in the SRH social media channels. So one proposal, I think there's a range of options here if the goal is to make the division very clear. One, as Jason has suggested, is that we have dedicated social media channels explicitly for task force communications. So if I'm writing an update on the task force activities or organizing a task force event, then this would be, Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force, right? So that's a new presence, right? One is to take our existing social media presence, which pre-existed before the task force, and make it into that and change the way that we use it. The third is to take those pre-existing social media presences and turn them into something else where it's very clear that it is not the official task force voice. So like Sustainable Rocky Hill, as it is called right now on Facebook, would just be like the Rocky Hill Sustainability Community. And it would be very clear that although there are plenty of members here, and we, I think, could share events from the task force in this community, we would just need to be explicit when we are posting in it, whether we are doing it as members, or you have to say, like, as my own personal opinion, we should be doing this, or as a representative of Walk Bike Rocky Hill, this is what's going on. Does that sound, is that a viable range, Jason?
I think the social media presence of the task force should be educational. You should be talking about what sort of events are available for people to attend, legislation that's coming up, but leaving out your opinion about whether or not someone should vote for something or even a specific side on something. It's kind of an odd thing to be a part of the town entity. So even you as volunteers on a task force are held to similar standards as you would be if you were a public employee. And we had a little bit of that in our training when we first began about what it would be like to be a task force member. And so the social media policies that I am subject to, you guys are as well. So by having this clear defining separation between where you've been posting previously and something new to be created just for the task force, then we might be able to make it, to provide more of a separation and try to make it more clear for people that aren't necessarily quite as savvy about all of this as we might be, because you guys are in the trenches every day when it comes to this.
And when you say that there are social media policies, are those written somewhere? Are those something that we
yes,
can reference?
Yep, and so I was going to make those available to you guys.
That would be very helpful.
I'll highlight anything that's important, and the policies are clearly written, so it's not very confusing. So I'll gather those and I'll disseminate those to you as quick as possible. And I can also include those as part of the meeting packet for next month too, just so it's on the record for other people to see as well.
Yeah.
Are you talking about kind of
those Rocky Hill Forum social media, like it would cut. So you'd have your Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force official, and then you could have Sustainable Community Forum type thing as a separate Facebook
Correct.
Page.
Yes.
And one might, where it might blur is, you know, if you have an announcement over here and someone wants to share it,
Right.
it's going to get shared all over the place. I mean, that's social media.
I don't
So
know.
there's some.
It's
Have a non-sharing format, though. I mean, I wonder if you can have something that you can't share.
Are there rules for that? Like,
Well, so this is why I'm interested in seeing the policy. I think we're very interested in being in compliance with the policy and making it clear. I think, yeah, so to me, I would prefer, among the range of options that we had, to like, we can have a Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force meeting or a Facebook presence that is different from the Rocky Hill sustainability community. And I think content from one can appear in the other. The important thing, from what I understand, is that we be explicit. That A, we say when we are representing the task force, and B, we only represent the task force in these areas that we have a purview to do so.
Right.
Education, awareness raising,
Yeah.
etc. So,
Could you go over
that's what
those?
the website
Unless you
would
had something.
give you, as a matter of fact. I
Yes.
mean, that's how you could separate it. Is you have Facebook and then you have the website.
Yeah.
And the website is really just where you focus on.
Robert mentioned a newsletter, which I think is closer to
Yeah.
the reality of a website that also is a newsletter. Three, not, I don't want to dismiss your point, I'm saying that, yeah, Facebook, but also our, quote, official presence is the website and a town website newsletter, which what could be MailChimp or
Yeah.
something that manages that, that's hopefully free. But
But
what
also a
three-
Facebook page as well.
Facebook page as
Yeah.
well, which is explicit.
And we could do the alerts
Well, right
through the
now
town.
it's Sustainable Rocky Hill, but I could wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I really like, gluten-free Rocky Hill, but I don't represent. But it seems like it does, right? It
Yeah,
sounds like it does.
yeah,
That's
it's,
why it would be task force or something that's explicit.
Yeah, in my personal life, I've avoided online opinions just because it's so murky that I'm just not even going to.
Yeah.
But for you guys, with the type of organizing that you've done, the events that you've planned, social media presence is essential, I think.
Yeah.
So if we can find a way to separate it, then I think it'll work out just fine. So,
I don't want
Yeah.
to forget to point out that the Sustainable Rocky Hill Instagram has 51 followers, and there's no reason that we can't just create a new Instagram. You're losing 51 people.
Right.
That will be.
I mean, that could easily just become.
Or you keep this as a placeholder that directs to
Well, yeah.
only one post that says we are now here, and people can go
Yeah.
find you there, whether or not.
So it's a little funny because
town hall appointed. You have to see that. The town
Yeah,
hall
yeah.
appointed. I mean, it's very clear what that is.
Yeah. So I think you have to go. Okay. The last thing I would ask before we go is that can I make? So thank you, Jason, and we will continue to learn more about social media policy. I look forward to talking with you more about
I'm
this.
learning with you.
Right. So my last request is I would like to make a report to the town council about. I think in my agenda it was actions that we have done so far and actions before them where, if they do stuff they can get points, right? Awareness raising on that front. So could I have a motion to make a report to the town council?
A motion to support that you give a report to the town council at their next meeting.
Do I have a second? All in favor? All right, then Simon. Thank you, Simon. All right, thank you very much. So, Jason, if possible, I'd like to be in a format where the council can ask me questions, because I know every time I've brought up well, here's the number of points you have. People ask well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So, I prefer to do it outside of public comment and actually have a 5-minute chunk where people can ask me questions.
Yes.
So if I could get on the town manager's agenda that way.
Okay, I can add that to tomorrow's questions too. I can see if I can get you on the agenda.
Thank you very much. So as always, we close with Just saying, we meet once a month. And stay tuned for our next meeting, which will be July 27th, 2023. Can I get a motion to close?
I second that.
Second it. All in favor to adjourn? Chair, you should.
All in favor? Unanimous? Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.